The U.S. sniper with no file, no unit, no glory, only kills. At 6:42 a.m. on a fog-soaked Tennessee field in late November 1941, Private First Class Elias Turner adjusted the sling on a Springfield rifle that didn't technically belong to him. The air smelled like cold grass and wood smoke. Somewhere beyond the pines, morning bugles echoed, slow, tired, routine. Elias ignored them. He wasn't supposed to be here. This field wasn't part of the training grounds. It wasn't marked on any schedule. No instructors, no marching cadence, no uniform inspections. Just silence. And the man standing 10 yards behind him chewing a piece of tobacco as casually as if he were watching a farmhand mend a fence. Sergeant Alvin York. Not the movie star version. Not the medal ceremony photograph. The real one. Quiet, weathered, older now. The kind of man who didn't need rank or medals to take up space. York didn't speak yet. He let the silence sit. Elias exhaled slow, the way York had taught him the week before. No wasted movement. No tension in the cheek. No panic in the chest. Just breath. Just the target. 60 yards ahead stood a row of metal silhouettes welded from scrap. Primitive. Ugly. Some still carried scars from York's own demonstration shots. Elias steadied the rifle. His pulse was too fast. His fingers trembled, not from fear, but from expectation. York finally spoke. Not loud, not soft, just certain. Remember, boy, the rifle don't fire the man. The man fires the rifle. Elias nodded slightly, keeping cheek weld. York stepped closer. And you ain't fighting the target. A pause. You're fighting yourself. Elias's breath caught. York always knew when the doubt was there, even before he fired. The young private swallowed, then squeezed. The Springfield cracked through the fogged silence. Metal clanged. York nodded, not impressed, not surprised, just acknowledging reality. Then he asked without emotion, "You know what that means?" Elias waited. York tapped the stock gently. "You'll kill clean. That's a burden. Some men run from it. Some men pretend it ain't there. Others?" He stared past the trees, into something Elias couldn't see. Others carry it. Elias lowered the rifle. York placed a hand on his shoulder. Heavy, calloused, honest. "War's coming. You'll be needed." Elias swallowed. Nobody had told him that before. Nobody had told him he'd be useful, not just another uniform lost in marching drills. York stepped back. "You come tomorrow, same time." Elias blinked. "Sir, am I being trained for a sniper program?" York turned, walking away through the frost-silvered grass. Without looking back, he answered, "No, I'm training you to survive. If you're still here, if you can almost smell the cold and hear the shot, hit like." 2 weeks later, Elias was back on the same field with the same rifle and the same fog, but something in him had changed. The first time, he'd come curious. Now, he came hungry. York had him shooting at moving targets, swinging steel plates suspended from chains, improvised from scrap. No fancy range toys in a real fight, York had said. Just confusion and bad ground. Elias fired. Clang. Clang. Miss. Clang. York grunted. Too fast. Elias frowned. "But I hit." York cut him off. "You hit late." He stepped beside Elias, pointing with a thick finger. "Don't wait for the picture to be perfect. The world don't freeze for you to line it up. You shoot in the middle of chaos, or you don't shoot at all." He took the rifle from Elias, shouldered it like it was an extension of his spine, and fired at a swinging plate without even seeming to aim. The plate snapped around on its chain, spinning wildly. York handed the rifle back. "See? Ugly, but dead." Elias nodded, swallowing the sting of correction. York studied him. "You mad I showed you up?" Elias shook his head. "No, sir." York's eyes softened a fraction. "Good. 'Cause the battlefield don't care about your pride.
It cares if you learn quick." He paused, watching Elias reload. "You ever kill anything bigger than a deer?" Elias hesitated. "No, sir." "You will." York said it like he was saying you will see rain again, not prophetic, just inevitable. Before Elias could answer, a distant shout broke the calm. "Turner! Sergeant York! Radio in the mess hall!" York sighed, spat in the frost, and jerked his head toward the camp. "Bring the rifle. Don't leave it alone. Ever." The mess hall was crowded, but not loud. Not this time. Men stood around a battered radio, its cloth speaker humming. Faces were tight. Coffee sat untouched on tables. "We interrupt this program, a date which will live in infamy. Pearl Harbor." The words rolled through the room like an artillery blast without sound. Japan. Battleships. Dead. War. Someone cursed under his breath. Someone else whispered, "Jesus." Elias looked at York. The old sergeant's jaw muscles worked, but his eyes stayed on the radio. He'd lived through one war he never wanted. Now another was pulling at him like a tide. The announcer continued. Confusion, mobilization, the United States at war. Again. When the broadcast cut, the room exploded, not in cheers, but in overlapping voices. "When do we ship out?" "Those bastards. They hit us at anchor. We're not ready." York turned to Elias. "You scared?" Elias swallowed. "Yes, sir." York nodded once. "Good. That means you're sane." He put a hand on his shoulder, harder this time. "But don't let fear drive the rifle. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." York leaned closer. "A lot of boys are about to pick up guns for the first time and learn the wrong lesson. They think courage is running straight at the noise." He shook his head. "Courage is doing what's needed even when you hate that it's you who has to do it." He took Elias's Springfield, checked the chamber, then handed it back. "You're going west, I reckon." Elias blinked. "How do you know?" York gave a faint, humorless smile. "Army loves sending good shots to the Pacific. Jungle, bad sight lines, close fights. They'll want you there." As if summoned by the words, a corporal stepped into the mess hall door. "Turner, orders from HQ. Pack your gear. You're shipping out with the next draft to the West Coast." Elias's heart jumped into his throat. "Yes, Corporal." York didn't flinch. He just looked Elias in the eye like a blacksmith inspecting a blade one last time before it leaves the forge. "You remember what we did out there?" he asked, nodding toward the field. "Yes, sir." "You remember what you're fighting?" Elias thought of silhouettes, targets, paper, steel. "I thought I did." York shook his head. "You ain't fighting silhouettes. You're fighting chances. Every man on your side deserves one more chance to come home. That's what your shot buys." He paused, then gave the closest thing to a blessing Elias would ever get from him. "Don't chase medals. Don't chase numbers. Just make every round mean a man you kept alive. That's enough." Elias's throat tightened. "Will I see you again, sir?" York didn't answer right away. Finally, "If the good Lord's willing. But if you don't," he tapped the Springfield, "you'll still be carrying me in there." He meant the rifle. He meant the lessons. He meant the burden. 3 weeks later, Elias stood on the deck of a troop transport cutting through rough Pacific water under a gray sky. Men vomited over rails. Cards slapped on the crates in improvised games. Someone tried to play harmonica and got shouted down. Elias sat alone near the bow, rifle across his knees, watching flying fish burst from the waves like silver bullets. He sighted along the barrel, not to shoot, just to see. York's words echoed with every breath. "You ain't fighting the target. You're fighting yourself." The PA system crackled overhead. "Next stop, Guadalcanal." Elias checked his rifle one more time. He wasn't a legend. He wasn't a name in a book. Not yet. He was just a kid with a rifle taught by a man who knew exactly what that meant. In a few days, the Pacific would teach him the rest. And the first time he pulled the trigger on Guadalcanal, Alvin York's forgotten protege, would stop being a student and become something much darker.
The jungle on Guadalcanal didn't welcome men. It swallowed them. Humidity clung to skin like wet canvas. The air smelled of rot, mud, and cordite. Vines twisted around everything, including rusted helmets and abandoned canteens left from earlier fights. Elias Turner stepped off the landing craft into mud that pulled at his boots like hands trying to drag him under. A Marine corporal pointed with 2 fingers, not at a road, but at a wall of green. Snipers in those trees. Stay low, move slow. Elias nodded. His Springfield felt heavier now, not physically, but morally. This was no longer a tool. It was a decision. Every time he raised it, someone would live, or someone would die. The first night, the platoon dug in near a ridge overlooking a ravine. No fires, no talking above a whisper, no light, not even to read the letters stuffed in breast pockets. Somewhere in the dark, a Japanese soldier began to sing. Soft, haunting, almost beautiful. Someone muttered, trying to freak us out. Another whispered, or he's singing to someone he's never gonna see again. Elias rested his cheek against his rifle stock and closed his eyes. He didn't sleep. York had taught him that the first rule wasn't shooting, it was seeing. Dawn. At 0546, before the sun crested the canopy, Elias spotted movement across the ravine. Not a shape, just a wrongness. A silhouette too still to be natural. He breathed once through his nose, slow. Distance, maybe 180 yards. Wind, barely there. Movement, none now, but there would be soon. His heart pounded so loud he worried the enemy could hear it. He remembered York's voice. Don't wait until you're sure. Be sure enough. The enemy sniper shifted, just a fraction, enough for Elias to confirm it wasn't a branch. A glint of glass, a scope. He sees us. Elias exhaled and squeezed the trigger. The Springfield cracked. Birds exploded from the trees in a chaotic cloud. Silence. Then a helmeted head tumbled from the branch and vanished into the ravine. Someone behind Elias whispered, "Holy hell." But Elias didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He didn't breathe. Not yet. Because York had warned him. A sniper never sits alone. If you see one, another one sees you. Dawn. Elias shifted his position 3 feet left, keeping low. The second glint appeared 30 seconds later, higher, smarter, patient. This one was waiting for the first American to pop up and look proud. Elias didn't move, not yet. He closed his left hand on the forest floor. Mud, leaves, ants, life. He waited. Then the second sniper raised his rifle just an inch too far. Elias fired again. This time, no body fell. Just a rifle dropping through branches. Then a soft, distant thud. After the shot, the lieutenant crawled beside him. "You've done this before." Elias shook his head. This was the first time. The lieutenant stared at the ravine. "Well, damn, keep doing it." He crawled away, muttering to himself. Someone else whispered, "What do we call him?" A voice answered, "Call him the kid for now." Another added, "But not for long." That night, Elias cleaned his rifle under starlight. The jungle breathed around him. Frogs croaked. Rain dripped through leaves. Somewhere, someone cried quietly in their foxhole. Elias didn't cry, but he didn't feel proud. He felt changed. York's warning echoed again, not like advice, but like prophecy. Your first kill ain't victory, it's the door. After that, you decide what kind of man walks through it. Elias looked at his hands, steady now, not because he was calm,
but because something cold had settled inside him. Not hatred, not thrill, purpose. Tomorrow, someone else would be aiming at his friends, and the only thing standing between them and death was him. The fighting shifted inland as the weeks dragged on. Rain turned everything into mud thick enough to swallow boots and bend morale. The jungle wasn't just terrain, it was an enemy with patience. By late January, U.S. patrols pushed toward a ridge the Marines called the Spine. Japanese defenders called it something else. Shinigami no Su, the nest of the Reaper. No one knew exactly who the sniper was, just that he fired only once, and whoever he fired at never got up again. The warning. The night before the assault, Lieutenant Harris crouched beside Elias in the command tent. Maps were weighed down with knives and wet canteen caps. A lantern swung overhead, throwing shadows like restless hands. "You're going up front tomorrow," Harris said. Elias nodded. He already knew. Harris continued. "Intelligence says the enemy sniper on that ridge has taken 11 of our guys, one shot each time, no misses." Elias swallowed. "And you want me to find him?" Harris didn't answer. He didn't have to. Before dawn, Elias prepared quietly. No talking, no chatter, no thoughts beyond routine. He scraped mud from his Springfield with the sleeve of his jacket, checked the bolt, checked the sling tension, adjusted the rear sight by 2 clicks, instinct, not calculation. The jungle was cold before sunrise, breath fogged, the world held its breath. As the patrol assembled, a Marine corporal offered Elias a strip of white cloth. "What's this?" "Locals do it sometimes," the Marine said. "Breaks up the face and brush, makes the enemy see shape wrong." Elias took it. The cloth felt rough, hand-torn, and smelled faintly of salt and blood. He tied it around his lower face until only his eyes showed. A few Marines stared. One whispered, "Looks like a ghost." Elias didn't respond. Names meant nothing. Only the shot mattered. Into the spine. The patrol crept forward in silence. No footsteps, just placement. No talking, just signals. Every shadow was a question. Every leaf movement was potential death. Elias scanned ahead, not where danger was, but where it wanted to be. That was one of York's last lessons. A sniper ain't waiting for the enemy. He's waiting for the man who thinks he's hidden. The ridge ahead narrowed. Trees thinned. Birds went silent. That silence meant something. Something bad. Elias stopped, raised a fist. The patrol froze. Nothing moved for 5 long seconds. Then, a faint flash. Not light, just reflection. Glass. Far up the slope. High angle. Elias shifted half an inch behind a palm trunk, slowly raising his rifle. No breath, no emotion, no doubt. Just angles. Distance, circa 310 yards. Wind, light left. Enemy position, elevated, partially concealed by a bamboo break. Patience. Don't shoot too early. Don't panic. Wait until the rhythm breaks. The shot that wasn't a shot. The Japanese sniper fired first. A Marine behind Elias jerked and went down without a sound. But the shot was slightly off, only by inches, meaning one thing. The enemy wasn't shooting at the Marines. He was shooting at Elias. He'd known. He'd been waiting. Elias felt nothing, not fear, not shock, only recognition. 2 predators had finally seen each other. He shifted position, not much, just a shoulder width left. He purposefully exposed a corner of cloth and waited. The second enemy round hit the trunk where his head would have been. Closer, but impatient. Elias steadied the rifle and whispered, not to the patrol, but to himself. "You moved first. Now I move last." The Japanese sniper made a mistake. He leaned for a third shot. Elias fired. One clean, surgical trigger squeeze. The Springfield echoed. A black shape slumped sideways in the bamboo and disappeared. Aftermath. No cheering, no relief, just exhale. Another Marine muttered behind him. Damn, he hunts the hunters. Someone else said, he ain't Turner anymore. He's something else. Elias removed the white cloth and stared at it. He didn't feel heroic. He felt responsible. York's voice echoed in his memory. A good shot ain't proud. A good shot is quiet. Elias tucked the cloth into his jacket pocket, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. One day, someone would hunt him with the same patience, and he couldn't afford to forget. Back at camp that night, Marines walked past him, noticing but not speaking. Respect, fear, both. Elias cleaned his rifle slowly, methodically. For the first time, he whispered, not a prayer, not regret, just truth. One more day.
The next morning, the fog rolled in heavy and low, so thick it erased the world beyond 10 steps. The jungle felt unreal, like a half-remembered nightmare. Fog wasn't weather here. Fog was tactics. And someone else knew it too. A whisper in the trees. Just after dawn, a runner found Elias cleaning his Springfield behind a half-collapsed tent. "Turner, Colonel wants you." The runner hesitated before adding, "And he wants only you." That was never a comforting sentence. Elias slipped the boat back into place, grabbed his rifle, and followed. Inside the command tent, the colonel stood hunched over a map. Officers around him looked tense, one tapping his foot, another biting a cigarette filter to Pope. The colonel didn't look up when he spoke. "Turner, we have a problem." Elias waited. Colonel tapped the map, 3 marked points connected by pencil lines. 3 patrols hit in the last 48 hours. Same pattern. 1 man killed each time. No misses. Elias already knew where this was going. The colonel continued. No one saw the shooter. No one heard him. No one found brass, prints, movement, nothing. Another officer muttered, "The men are calling him a U-ray." Ghost. The word sat heavy in the air. The colonel finally looked up at Elias. Intel suggests the Japanese have brought in a counter-sniper, someone trained specifically to hunt you. Elias didn't flinch, didn't shift weight, didn't blink. Just breathed once. Calm, controlled. The colonel leaned closer. Find him before he finds you. Into the fog. The jungle swallowed Elias like a mouth closing. His steps were slow, deliberate, quiet to the point of disappearing. He didn't scan the ground like a hunter. He scanned it like prey. York taught him that too. A sniper survives longer when he remembers he's also the hunted. Hours passed. Fog refused to lift. Birds stayed silent. No wind. Perfect environment for a man who could use silence like a weapon. Elias found a fallen tree half sunk into earth and moss. He slid behind it, not facing the clearing, but facing a blind approach path. Because a true sniper never stared at the obvious lane. He stared at the trap. He waited. Minutes stretched into hours. Nothing. Not a twig snap. Not a leaf rustle. Not a breath. Then, finally, movement. Not ahead. Behind. A faint shape materializing through fog. Slow, low, precise. A rifle cradle. A face fully wrapped in white. Eyes calm, unhurried. The Japanese counter-sniper. Not rushing, not scanning, not overthinking. Just closing distance, like someone certain his prey had already been located. Elias's heart rate didn't spike, but his body shifted, millimeters at a time, until his rifle aligned. The Japanese sniper paused, not from detection, from instinct. 2 hunters in the same silence, both trying to predict the other's next breath. No adrenaline now, only mathematics and patience. The exchange no one heard. Elias inhaled, not deep, just steady.
The Springfield's front sight rested perfectly. The white-masked sniper adjusted the bolt on his Arisaka, slow enough to remain silent, but not slow enough to hide the intent. He thought Elias was looking forward. He thought the ambush was perfect. He thought wrong. Elias squeezed. One shot. A soft collapse into leaves. No cry, no struggle, no second chance. Elias held position for 30 more seconds. No movement followed, only stillness. He finally stood, approached slowly, rifle ready. The Japanese sniper lay on his back, eyes open, expression not angry, not afraid, almost satisfied. Because he understood, he had lost to someone who played the same game at the same level. Elias knelt beside him. Something glinted on the man's chest. A small wooden prayer tablet. Carved into it, Utsuka Shinuka, shoot or die. Elias closed the man's eyes, not out of respect for the enemy, but respect for the craft. Then he took nothing, no trophy, no weapon, just the silence. A new shadow in the camp. When Elias returned to base, men stopped talking when they saw him, not because he looked frightening, but because he returned from a hunt where the other man never did. Lieutenant Harris approached. "Well?" Elias answered with just 2 words. "It's done." Harris nodded once, slow. "You did good." Elias didn't agree, didn't disagree. He just cleaned his rifle and prepared for the next day, because in wars like this, victories weren't celebrated. They were survived.
War changes routines. After the counter-sniper fell, the platoon slept easier, but Elias didn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the masked man falling backward in perfect silence. Not dying in fear, dying knowing. Some enemies collapse, others leave a shadow. This one left a mirror. The new threat. 2 days later, just as dusk blended into night, a single rifle shot echoed across camp. But something was wrong. No muzzle flash, no echo trail, no detectable angle. Just the sound, sharp, surgical, impossible to locate. A medic sprinted past Elias. A Marine stumbled behind him, blood running from a small, perfectly centered hole between the collarbone and throat. He didn't scream. He couldn't. He collapsed, dead before he hit the mud. Someone shouted, "Sniper, get down!" Men dove behind crates, logs, sandbags, anything. Elias stayed kneeling, thinking. That shot wasn't rushed. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't intimidation. It was testing range. A message written in blood. I can see you. After dark. Later, in the command tent, the colonel pointed at a map with shaking fingers. This wasn't random. He waited for a man walking alone. No light, no movement, no sound. Elias cut in quietly. He's not in the trees. The officers turned. He continued. He's farther out, higher elevation, and he's using subsonic ammunition. One lieutenant frowned. Subsonic, meaning the bullet doesn't break sound barrier? Elias nodded. It travels slower, no crack, just the impact and rifle report. Another officer exhaled. Jesus, that's rare. That's specialized. The colonel stared at Elias. Can you stop him? There was no hesitation. Just a calm, cold truth. Only if I find him first. Hunting silence. The next morning, Elias left camp before sunrise, alone. Fog again. Always fog now. He moved methodically, not toward the front, but sideways, mapping angles, calculating possible firing lines. York taught him this part too. Finding a sniper ain't looking for a man. It's looking for where a man would rather be. High ground, but concealed. Shadowed, but not blind. Stable firing platform. Escape route behind.
Elias found 3 such points and discarded 2 instantly. Wrong vegetation, wrong sight line. But the third, a ridge with volcanic rock shaped into a natural shelf, a perfect nest. Elias lay prone in thick fern, waited, listened, not for sound, but for absence of sound. The jungle isn't quiet. It whispers, hums, breathes. But ahead of him, a pocket of stillness, predatory silence, a place where nature held its breath. That was the sniper. A ghost shot. Elias kept low, moving inches at a time. Then, there it was. A rifle barrel, not shiny, not careless, but matte, wrapped in cloth and moss. The Japanese sniper lay fully camouflaged, almost invisible. He wasn't facing the battlefield. He was facing the camp. Patient, unhurried, waiting for the next clean shot. Elias steadied his Springfield. Distance, 230 yards. Angle, slight right decline. Wind, gentle. Timing, heart rate controlled. He waited until the sniper shifted weight. Tiny motion, almost nothing, but enough. Elias fired. Silence after the silence. No cry, no fall, just stillness. Elias approached slowly, rifle ready. The Japanese sniper lay perfectly still, one hand frozen mid-adjustment of the receiver. His rifle was custom modified, short barrel, hand-carved suppressor sleeve, low-pressure hand-loaded rounds. A weapon built not for battle, for assassination. Pinned to the man's webbing was a small piece of rice paper with hand-written kanji. Elias sounded out the translation slowly. 1 bullet, 1 soul. He folded the message and slipped it into his jacket, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that some enemies weren't aiming for victory. They were aiming for perfection. A reputation forms. Back at camp, Marines gathered without speaking as Elias walked past. Someone murmured, "He killed the silent shot." Another answered, "No, he hunted the man who hunted silence." The nickname spread before Elias even heard it. Not Turner, not Private, not Sniper, just White Shadow. A name whispered the way men talk about storms, with respect and fear. If you're still here, if you felt that cold silence, comment, "The White Shadow rises."
The jungle changed after that day. Not physically. Same trees, same mud, same humid air heavy enough to drink. But the atmosphere among the men? Different. Before, fear lived everywhere. Now, something else replaced it. Confidence. Not loud, not cocky, more like the calm that comes when a predator realizes it's not the only one in the dark. Men would nod when Elias passed. Not salute, not cheer, just acknowledge. One of the younger Marines whispered once as he walked by, "If the Japanese have ghosts, so do we." Word traveled down the line faster than rations ever did. The enemy had lost 2 specialists in under a week, 2 of their best. They didn't see it as coincidence. They saw it as challenge. And challenges in war demand answers. Heavy weather incoming. 3 days later, a storm rolled in from the ocean. Rain so heavy it turned foxholes into bathtubs. Visibility nearly 0. Footing treacherous. Sound deafening, constant, every drop like gravel against helmets. Perfect weather to move. Perfect weather to kill. Just before sunset, distant artillery began hammering the tree line ahead of the U.S. perimeter. Not accurate fire, not to destroy, just to blind and distract. Elias felt it before anyone said it out loud. "They're probing us." Lieutenant Harris jogged across mud toward him. "Turner, grab your rifle. Colonel wants you forward with Scouting Unit 6. Elias nodded once. No questions. Questions meant delay. Delay got men killed.
The broken village. The unit moved north toward a burned-out Filipino village, nothing left but skeletal bamboo frames and stone foundations half swallowed by jungle. Fog and steam rose off the wet ground. Every step sounded like ripping cloth. Corporal Mason whispered, "Feels wrong, like we're walking into a story that doesn't want an ending." Elias silently raised a hand. Everyone froze. Movement, not ahead, above. Shadows shifting behind the burnt rafters of what used to be a church. Then, a flash, a whistling arc, impact, explosion, grenade. The blast threw two Marines backwards, one screaming, one silent. Automatic fire erupted from the ruins, long bursts, controlled, coordinated. Multiple shooters. Not ambush, assault. The Japanese weren't hiding snipers now. They were using them to prepare an attack. Mason shouted over gunfire, "They're softening the perimeter, they're coming." Elias already knew. His mind wasn't on the riflemen. It was tracking the pattern of the fire. Left roof, right window, broken staircase. Not random, covering lanes. Meaning someone, somewhere, was watching the field for response. Meaning there was a third sniper. The true one. The one orchestrating the chaos. The calculated pause. Bullets tore leaves overhead. Marines ducked, cursed, returned fire. But Elias didn't fire. He watched, counted, measured. York's voice surfaced in his memory. A sniper doesn't shoot because he can. He shoots when nothing else will do. Then he saw it. A glint, not metal, not rifle. Glass. A scope. Not firing, observing. The director. Elias steadied his Springfield. Breathe in, hold, wait. The air trembled with rain and war. Then, the sniper lifted his rifle half an inch. A sign, a command. Elias fired. The shot that broke the storm. The figure jerked back, rifle dropped. Gunfire from the ruins faltered, one burst, then silence, then scattered, confused shots. Without direction, the ambush turned sloppy. American riflemen pushed forward, firing with precision. Mason yelled, "They're pulling back." Shapes fled into forest shadows, leaving weapons, webbing, and bodies behind. Elias approached the collapsed church. The man he shot lay slumped against a wall. Older than the others, ribbons on his belt, rank markings stitched carefully. A master sniper, a teacher, a commander of marksmen. Pinned to his uniform was a thin bamboo plaque etched with characters. Harris leaned over as Elias translated softly. "Rain teaches stone how to endure." Harris exhaled. "Meaning?" Elias wiped the plaque clean with his thumb. "It means this wasn't just an attack." He stood, eyes narrowing toward the tree line. It was the beginning. A new phase of war. Back at base, the colonel listened without interruption. When Elias finished, the colonel nodded solemnly. "You just broke their reconnaissance doctrine. They'll adapt." Elias replied, "They already have." "So what now?" Harris asked. Elias slid another round into the Springfield chamber. Calm, cold, certain. "Now we hunt the ones who are still learning."
Night in the Pacific wasn't darkness. It was a pressure, a weight, a living thing that wrapped around bone and thought and memory until everything felt distant, except the fear you tried not to name. But this night felt different. Marines later said it was the first time the jungle felt like it was waiting. Not hunting, not hiding, waiting. As if something was moving through it and even the trees didn't want to make noise. The stillness before alarm. Elias sat in a dugout position near the forward observation line, Springfield across his lap, eyes half closed, breathing steady. Not sleeping, resting the mind. York taught him that too. A sniper doesn't need rest in hours. He needs rest in seconds. Corporal Mason crawled up beside him and whispered, "You feel that?" Elias didn't open his eyes. Yes. No birds, no wind, no anything. Yes. Mason swallowed. "You know what it means?" Elias finally opened his eyes. "It means the enemy's already in position." The signal nobody heard. At 22:19, a single faint metallic click echoed from somewhere ahead. Not a rifle bolt, not a grenade pin. It was the sound a trained scout made by tapping two pieces of bamboo together, a code the Japanese used to signal units silently in dense jungle. One tap meant ready, two meant wait, three meant begin. Tonight, there were two. Mason whispered, "So they're waiting?" "No," Elias replied. "They're adjusting." The first movement. Light footsteps came from the perimeter, too soft for boots. Bare feet. Scouts. Then, a shadow broke from the tree line, moving low and fast. Then another, and another. No shouting, no war cries, just a silent push, controlled, rehearsed, surgical. A Marine hissed, "They're trying to breach in silence." Elias raised his rifle, not toward the attackers, but past them, looking for the mind behind the movement. The pattern was too precise. This wasn't panic. This was design. Somewhere, a sniper was guiding the infiltration, like chess. Elias scanned the high ground. No glint, no silhouette, no mistake. But then, a flicker. Not metal, not movement, a shift in the pattern of shadows. Something overhead, somewhere along the broken ridge. A sniper in a tree nest, far above the assault, watching, judging, waiting for a target worth the bullet. Elias didn't have a clear line, yet. "Breaking the pattern," he whispered. "Mason, smoke." Mason didn't ask why. He pulled a phosphorus smoke canister, yanked the pin with his teeth, and rolled it downhill. White smoke burst outward, fast and thick. Marines cursed, confused. Enemy scouts froze, disoriented. But Elias wasn't creating cover. He was creating contrast. Because in smoke, any movement silhouette becomes more visible. And in that moment, Elias saw it. A faint shape high in a tree, still, but not natural. Very tall perch, perfect field of vision, perfect command point. He exhaled. Time slowed. Trigger broke. The Springfield cracked. The fall. For a moment, nothing. Then a dark shape toppled from the tree and fell, through branches, through vines, through silence, and hit the jungle floor with a sound that was not flesh. Armor plating, modified sniper harness. The man wasn't just a shooter. He was a commander, a trainer, a strategist, a force multiplier. The Japanese scouts heard the body hit, and something changed. Their coordinated infiltration fractured. Instead of discipline, there was hesitation. Instead of silence, there was doubt. And doubt kills faster than bullets. Marines opened fire. The jungle erupted. The infiltration collapsed. The attack didn't break gradually. It snapped. Aftermath. When the field went still again, Mason knelt beside the body. Who was he? Elias examined the gear. Custom suppressor mount, rangefinder marks on the stock, weatherproofed sling. Finally, he found a symbol carved into the wood. A stylized chrysanthemum. Imperial specialist. Elite. Someone important, Elias murmured. Mason gave a low whistle. "You think more like him are coming?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He wiped mud from the dead sniper's glove and saw stitching, gold thread. Then, and only then, he replied, "No, the ones coming next or worse.
Dawn didn't feel like dawn. There was no warmth, no color, only a faint silver light trickling through smoke and mist like someone turning up the brightness on a dead screen. Marines moved quietly, stepping over roots, shell fragments, and bodies they pretended not to see. The jungle smelled of rain, gunpowder, and the copper tang of blood. Some men shook, some prayed, some just stared. Elias didn't do any of those things. He was studying angles, distances, trajectories. War wasn't chaos to him. War was geometry with consequences. A message left in the dirt. Near the fallen sniper from the night before, Elias noticed something strange. Not equipment, not markings. A message. Someone had drawn a pattern in the mud, precise strokes made with a gloved finger. Not random, not frantic. A symbol. 3 intersecting lines, then 2 dots. Mason crouched beside him. "What do you make of it?" Elias replied after a long pause. "It's not a threat." "What then?" "A warning." Mason blinked. "From who?" Elias brushed rain off the symbol. "From someone who knew the man I killed. And respected him." Silence before contact. For 2 days, nothing happened. No sniper fire, no patrol contact, no artillery feeling for the perimeter. Some Marines said the Japanese were retreating, packing up, giving up. Mason said it too. "Maybe you broke their spirit. Maybe it's over." Elias didn't respond. York taught him one last rule, the rule all great snipers learn. If you stop fearing the enemy, you've already died. On the 3rd day, just after midday rations, a single shot echoed across camp. But this one wasn't like the others. It wasn't wild, rushed, or probing. It was perfect, clean, precise, centered. It struck a helmet sitting on a crate 40 feet from the nearest Marine. The bullet didn't hit a man. It hit a target, a demonstration, a statement. I can shoot from anywhere. Marines froze. Men ducked. Someone whispered, "Oh hell, someone new is here." Elias already knew. This wasn't vengeance. This was professional courtesy. The next sniper wasn't trying to break morale. He was challenging the only opponent worth his skill. The impossible shot. Just 1 hour later, another shot cracked. This time, no one even saw where it came from. A supply canteen blew apart. A pencil snapped on a desk. A mess tin took a perfectly centered hole. Every shot was intentional. Every shot avoidable. Every shot had only one audience: Elias. Mason finally said what everyone else was thinking. He's not trying to hit us. No. He's trying to talk. Yes. What's he saying? Elias slowly chambered around. Come find me. The grid search. Elias moved out alone again, this time farther than any sanctioned scouting limit. Terrain shifted from thick foliage to volcanic rock fields and narrow ravines carved by torrential monsoon runoff. Perfect sniper territory. Zero sound reflection. Zero predictable cover. Zero walking paths. Elias advanced slowly, stopping often, not to listen, but to sense, to feel where another man like him would wait. At one ridge he paused, not because he saw movement, because he realized something. His instincts, normally razor-sharp, couldn't lock on to the threat. That meant either the enemy wasn't there, or, 2, the enemy was better. Elias scanned the horizon. Nothing. No bark scrape, no fabric shift, no reflection. Just stillness. Then, a faint sound. Not a footstep, not a rifle bolt. Something smaller, like metal brushing metal. A scope adjustment. The moment of truth. Elias dropped instantly, not to prone, but behind a rock. A bullet hissed over him, Not cracking like supersonic rounds, no. This round was subsonic, silenced, cold, professional. It struck the stone where his head had been a moment before. Elias didn't panic. He leaned into the ground, breathing slow, heart controlled, index finger relaxed along the trigger guard, not committed yet. He wasn't just reacting, he was thinking, calculating. That shot came from, roughly, he paused. Wait, another stone chipped beside him. A second shot, only inches from the first. The shooter wasn't adjusting wildly. He was walking the impacts inward, not aiming for a hit, aiming for zeroing. That meant he didn't miss. He was measuring, testing, learning. And in that moment, Elias understood. This wasn't just a sniper. This was someone trained the way he was trained, someone who had studied the same doctrine, someone who had faced American marksmen before, someone who knew Alvin York's legacy. Mason would later swear Elias whispered 3 quiet words. "He's waiting for me."
Elias didn't move for nearly 5 minutes, not because he was paralyzed by fear, but because the other sniper was waiting for him to move. This wasn't a firefight. This was 2 men measuring each other's patience. York always said, "A rifleman kills with skill. A sniper kills with discipline." Elias knew, whichever man broke stillness first would lose. Rain began falling, first slow, then steady, then heavy enough to drown footprints, soften sounds, blur vision. To most men, rain was misery. To elite snipers, rain was equalizer. Noise cover, movement mask, breathing cloak. The battlefield shifted from silence to static, and the duel finally began. The first move. Elias slid his hand slowly, not to his rifle, but into the muddy ground. He scooped wet soil and smeared it across the top of a nearby stone. Why? Reflection. Even the smallest shine could be a death sentence. He did the same to his rifle barrel, darkening metal until it looked like part of the earth. Only then did he lift the weapon. Half an inch, no more. He didn't raise his head, didn't break silhouette, just angled the scope enough to catch contrast, shapes, disruption, and unnatural shadow. Nothing. The rain thickened. The world turned gray. The sniper could have been 30 yards away or 300. But the enemy wasn't rushing. That meant confidence, training, patience forged in blood. Someone who knew that the waiting was the real weapon. A clue in the rain. Lightning flashed far offshore. For one brief second, the world lit in white. Elias saw it. A flicker of shape, barely perceptible where rain fell differently. Not a body, not a helmet, but a tiny break in texture. A space where droplets didn't land because something was blocking them. Camouflage that would fool any ordinary soldier, but not Elias. He breathed quietly. Range estimation, 270 yards. Elevation angle, slight downslope. Wind, killed by rain. Shot, possible, but barely. Why he didn't take it. At that distance, in that weather, a first-round kill required absolute certainty. But this wasn't just about hitting. The enemy sniper wanted the same thing Elias wanted, confirmation. This wasn't a skirmish, this was a test. The rain eased, the jungle exhaled, and then a reflection flashed. Just once, tiny, precise, intentional. Not a mistake, a message, a challenge. A shot meant for one man. The enemy fired again. Not at Elias, at a tree root directly in front of him, close enough to hear bark split and soil jump. A warning shot, a sentence without words. You found me, now prove you deserve the kill.
Elias's pulse slowed, not quickened. He wasn't angry. He wasn't afraid. He was alive in a way most men never experience. The same feeling York said he had the night he faced the German machine gun nests in the Argonne. Elias centered the crosshairs. His fingers settled. His breathing fell into rhythm. In, hold, out, hold, press. But then, a whisper behind him. Not a voice, a footstep. He rolled, just as a bayonet sliced through the space where his ribs had been. Not one sniper, two. The enemy hadn't come alone. One sniper to pin him, one infantryman to finish the kill quietly. Smart, efficient, traditional to Japanese doctrine. Snipers were never lone ghosts. They were often part of small hunter-killer cells. The attacker lunged again. Elias blocked with the rifle stock, but the bayonet scraped wood and drove him backward. Mud swallowed his boots. He slipped. The soldier pounced. Elias caught the wrist, forcing the blade away from his throat. The two crashed into the mud, struggling in violent silence. No shouting, no panic, just raw instinct. Elias drove his elbow into the attacker's jaw, once, twice, 3 times, until teeth cracked and breath rattled. The bayonet dropped. The fight wasn't over. The soldier clawed at Elias' throat, trying to crush his windpipe. Elias reached, fingers searching, not for his rifle, but for the enemy's. His hand found metal, cold, heavy. He swung, hard. The rifle butt smashed into skull. The grip loosened. One more strike. Stillness. Breathing hard, Elias rolled the body aside. His palms shook, not from fear, but from adrenaline. He retrieved his own rifle and lifted again toward the ridge. The hidden sniper was gone. Not retreated, relocated, prepared, waiting for part 2 of the duel. The signature. As Elias stood, exhausted and soaked, he noticed something tucked inside the fallen soldier's tunic. A folded cloth patch, hand-stitched, a Japanese character. Elias recognized it. He had seen the same mark in York's memoir, scribbled in a margin next to a story York never fully explained. A symbol belonging to a rare elite Japanese marksman unit trained before the war, long before America understood sniping. The unit's name translated loosely to "those who erase shadows." Elias closed his hand around the patch. Not a trophy, a declaration. This duel was just beginning.
Night pressed in heavy and suffocating, thicker than fog, darker than jungle shadows. Campfires were forbidden, voices muted. Only the jungle spoke, crickets humming, distant artillery echoing like storms trapped in the hills. Elias sat with his back against a rain-soaked log, the patch he recovered still clenched in his fist. Not a victory, a warning, a signature. Across from him, Lieutenant Harris crouched, studying Elias's expression. "You think he's coming back?" he whispered. Elias didn't look up. "He didn't miss me today," he said quietly. "He let the infantrymen do the work." Harris frowned. "You're saying he wants this?" Elias finally lifted his eyes. "No," he said. There was no anger in his voice, only understanding. "He needs it." Shared language without words. Snipers are separated by uniforms, nations, and orders. But there's an unspoken truth among them. Only another sniper truly understands what it means to hunt a single heartbeat. Somewhere out there, in the dark beyond the perimeter wires and listening posts, sat a man who had waited hours just to send 2 deliberate bullets, one to communicate, the second to test. Not sloppy fire, not desperation, respect. The enemy wasn't trying to kill Elias immediately. He was studying him, measuring him, and Elias was doing the same. 2 predators circling a battlefield too small for both.
York's notebook. Inside his pack, wrapped in oilskin and string, was a small, battered notebook, the one Alvin York had given him before shipping out. York had told him, "This ain't just a book. It's mistakes I paid for so you don't have to." Elias opened it now, turning pages stained with grease, sweat, and pencil marks from another war. Near the back was a passage York underlined twice. A duel between snipers ends one of two ways. The one who wants to win dies. The one who refuses to lose survives. Elias exhaled slowly. He wasn't in this because he wanted a kill. He was in it because survival, his and the men depending on him, required it. Patterns in the dark. Around midnight, Elias walked the perimeter. Mud clung to his boots. Rain beat it off his poncho. He watched how Marines behaved. Some slept shallow, clutching rifles like anchors. Some whispered stories from home. Others stared into darkness, waiting for shapes that never came. Fear was everywhere, but so was resolve. As he passed a foxhole, a young private, maybe 19, looked up. "Sir, someone said you're going back out tomorrow." Elias paused. "That's the plan." The young Marine swallowed, then asked the question men rarely dared to speak aloud. "Are you gonna kill him?" Elias considered. Lightning flickered far away. "I'm going to end it," he answered. The private nodded slowly, as if that meant something beyond war. Return of the white patch. Before dawn, as gray light began leaking into the jungle, a sentry approached Elias, pale and shaken. "Sir, you need to see this." He led Elias 50 yards beyond the last supply trench, to a lone wooden stake stuck into the mud. Pinned to it was something folded, a white cloth. Rain-washed, clean, precise. Elias unfolded it. Another symbol. The same one. But now something new had been added beside it. 3 small vertical strokes. Harris whispered, "Messages? Rank?" Elias shook his head. "No," he said. His voice was low, almost hollow. "It's a count." Harris stiffened. "A count of what?" Elias closed the cloth. "Us." A shift in rules. War wasn't just numbers, maps, or orders from far-off command tents. Sometimes war narrowed into something personal, purposeful, like 2 swords drawn silently in the dark. Elias returned to his rifle. Checked chamber, checked bolt, checked 0. Every motion deliberate. He wasn't preparing for a mission. He was preparing for a reckoning. York's voice echoed in memory. "You don't hunt a sniper by chasing him. You make him hunt the wrong version of you." Elias quietly removed a spare poncho, stuffed it with rags, and positioned it atop a stump in the mist. A silhouette. A perfect decoy. Harris watched with wide eyes. "You think he'll fall for that?" Elias spoke without looking up. "He won't." He tightened the sling. "But he'll react." The jungle holds its breath. When the sun finally broke the horizon, no birds sang, no insects buzzed. Even the rain eased, like the sky itself was waiting. Then, a single shot cracked from the distant tree line. Not rushed, not sloppy, measured, deliberate. The decoy poncho snapped back as a bullet ripped through it. Harris whispered, "He found us." Elias didn't blink. "No," he said quietly. He confirmed the engagement. He lifted his Springfield, settled behind the glass. Breath slow, eyes steady, voice low. Now the duel begins. If you're still with Elias, if you feel the tension tightening like a trigger half-pressed, comment, thumbs up. The bullet that struck the decoy wasn't just a shot. It was a declaration, a sniper's equivalent of stepping into the ring. Elias knew it immediately. So did every Marine watching from trenches, foxholes, and muddy firing lanes. Some whispered, some cursed, some just stared into the jungle as if it were a living creature. Harris spoke first. "So what now?" Elias didn't answer right away. He was reading the silence, the way the jungle felt. Every sniper knew the next shot wouldn't come fast. It would come right. The hidden marksman was now shifting positions, establishing dominance, forcing Elias to react. But Elias didn't move. York had drilled this into him. A bad sniper waits. A good sniper looks. A great sniper makes the enemy think he's waiting while he's already seen them. Elias lay prone, elbows grounded, cheek against the familiar wood of his Springfield. His heartbeat slowed. He scanned, not for movement, but for absence. A branch with no rain marks, a shadow with no reason, a leaf bending downward when wind pushed the other direction. Patterns, not objects. A flicker that shouldn't exist. 10 minutes passed. Then 11. Then a faint distortion, nearly invisible, near a moss-covered ridge. Not metal glint, not fabric shift, just the shape rain avoided. A shallow depression, consistent with a man laying still, rifle forward. Elias exhaled. Range, 312 yards. With jungle humidity, bullet drop slight. Wind, almost none. Shot, possible. Kill probability, maybe 50%. But this shot wasn't about math. It was about message. The enemy sniper wanted to demonstrate precision. Elias would reply with certainty. He adjusted the scope a hair. Finger light on the trigger. Breath out, click. The rifle misfired. The worst possible sound. The soft metallic click, barely audible. But to a trained enemy, it was thunder. Movement flashed in the ridge. A countershot screamed past Elias's ear, so close he felt the air peel his hair sideways. Harris ducked instinctively. Jesus, he heard that. Elias didn't flinch. He cycled the bolt with one smooth motion, clearing the misfire. The bullet failure told him something important. Damp powder from last night's rain. Meaning, this duel wasn't happening from comfort. This was survival, skill, endurance. No perfect conditions, just will. A shift in position. Elias rolled left, not fast but controlled, no wasted movement. A second shot hit where he'd been, exactly where the misfire click originated. No scatter, no adjustment, perfect prediction. Harris murmured. He murmured, "He's reading you like a textbook." Elias replied softly, "No, he's reading who he thinks I am." He slid deeper into dense brush, changing elevation slightly, angled drastically. The enemy sniper expected lateral movement. Elias moved obliquely downward, a sniper trick York once called breaking the chessboard. Now both men were unseen again, reset. Another silent countdown began. Studying the mind behind the rifle. The first sniper's assistant, the man Elias killed, had been trained to silently close distance and kill hand to hand. Not standard infantry doctrine. That meant the surviving sniper wasn't just good. He was special operations, a hunter of hunters. A man raised on the idea that war wasn't won with armies. It was won by eliminating the men who made armies dangerous. This was personal, not because Elias offended him, but because Elias was now the only American sniper considered worthy of the duel. A rare and grim honor. The shot Elias didn't expect. A twig snapped, not near Elias, but 50 yards behind him. His blood went cold. There were two again. Not an assistant. Another sniper. A second marksman tasked with flanking. Elias rotated slowly, rifle a shadow against the earth. Rain intensified. Sound swelled. His ears strained. Eyes scanned. Then, a whisper of motion. Too close. Too fast. A muzzle emerging from ferns. Elias squeezed the trigger. Bang! The shot tore through camouflage. A body collapsed, rifle clattering against roots. Harris gasped. "You got him! God, you actually—" Elias shook his head. No. He scanned the original ridge. Because if he would have taken that shot, the enemy would too. He didn't look through the scope. He aimed blind, using instinct more than sight. Not at the flank, back at the original position. And fired. The world held still. For 3 seconds, nothing moved. Then, something slumped. A shape slid slowly down the ridge like wet cloth losing its grip. No scream, no thrashing, just stillness. Final. Harris exhaled shakily. Is it over? Elias lowered his rifle. Finally, he allowed himself one breath of relief. I think so. But before they turned back, he walked to the fallen sniper. Rain pattered softly on his helmet as he knelt beside the body. The man's rifle was unlike any standard-issue Japanese weapon. Modified, tuned, hand-made improvements in every detail. Like Elias's Springfield. Pinned to the man's lapel was a folded white square. This one had 4 marks, and beneath them a final symbol. Meaning, equal. A farewell, a recognition, a closing statement, spoken in the language only snipers know. Elias closed the sniper's eyes and whispered, "Rest." Back at camp, no celebration erupted, just quiet looks, respect. Harris finally asked, "What will you tell command?" Elias answered, "The truth." Harris frowned. "And what's the truth?" Elias slung his rifle, eyes tired, voice measured. "One enemy sniper killed a dozen of ours. I killed him. We're even."
For the first time in days, there was no shot to anticipate, no glint to track, no invisible pressure wrapping around the perimeter like wire. Yet the absence of danger didn't feel like safety. It felt like the jungle was remembering what happened. Elias walked back toward camp slowly, not triumphantly, not exhausted, just quiet. A kind of quiet that only comes after killing someone who deserved respect. Harris walked beside him, hands buried in wet gloves. "You ever feel different after a kill like that?" he asked gently. Elias didn't answer right away. He wasn't avoiding the question. He was answering it carefully. Finally, he spoke. "Some kills feel like removing a threat. Some feel like stealing something. This one," he paused, "felt like closing a chapter neither of us wanted open." Harris whispered, "Yeah, I get that." But neither of them truly did, not yet. A return to normal that wasn't. Camp resumed its routine. Patrol rotations, ration lines, rain-soaked repairs, quiet card games lit by shakily shielded flashlights. Men glanced at Elias as he passed, not with awe, but with something heavier. Relief, admiration, fear, gratitude. Not one word needed to be spoken. Everyone knew exactly what had happened. The Japanese sniper who had been haunting the ridgeline wasn't coming back. The rumor traveled through the battalion. Turner ended it. But Elias didn't bask in it. He didn't even sit near the fire pit where the others shared cigars, wrote letters, or traded stories. He claimed his rifle, slow, careful, intent. Rainwater had soaked into the bolt assembly. The firing pin spring was sluggish. Mud clung to grooves near the chamber threads. York's voice echoed in his memory. "Rifles are like faith. You don't maintain them because they failed you. You maintain them so they never will." When he finished, he oiled the receiver, wiped the barrel, and rested the weapon across his knee. Only then did he let his shoulders drop. A message from command. Near midnight, a runner arrived at his tent, breathing fast, boots caked with mud like wet concrete. "Turner," he said, "Colonel wants you." Elias stood, grabbed the rifle, and followed the young soldier through camp, past radios humming with half-coded transmissions and maps pinned with red and blue thread.
Inside the command tent, warm lantern light glowed over weary faces. The colonel looked up. "Sit." Elias did. On the table lay reconnaissance reports, Japanese unit intercepts, and one photograph. Grainy, dark, but recognizable. A man in a white hooded parka, rifle slung across his shoulder, walking through snow beside a group of elite Japanese scouts. Harris swallowed. "That's him." The colonel nodded. "We believe so." Then he tapped the corner of the photo. "But we also believe he wasn't alone. That symbol you found," he pointed at the folded patch in Elias' pocket, "belongs to a pre-war Japanese sniper cadre known as the Kumorigumi. Translation varies, but, roughly," Elias finished the sentence, "the Fog Clan." The colonel exhaled slowly. "Yes." He spread a second file. Japanese handwriting accompanied by field intel translations. They weren't standard snipers. They were trained for infiltration, silent elimination, and counter-sniping. Rare, extremely. Harris frowned. "So Turner just got lucky enough to run into one?" The colonel shook his head. "No," his voice lowered. "He didn't run into one. He killed one. And that means," he tapped the file once more, "the others will want to finish what he couldn't." Silence. Elias looked steady. Not surprised, not shaken, just accepting an old truth. War never ends in a single shot. It ends when the last man decides he's finished fighting. Why Elias didn't flinch. Harris leaned in. "So what do we do? Prepare defenses? Pull sniper teams? Alert scouting units?" The colonel raised a hand. "No panic." Then he turned to Elias. "Tell me something. After today, are you still willing to engage if they come?" Elias didn't blink, didn't think, didn't hesitate. He simply said, "If they come, I'll be waiting." The colonel exhaled, relief and resignation mixed. "Good." He closed the folder. "Get rest. You'll need it." A final thought before sleep. Back in his foxhole, Elias lay awake, rain tapping the helmet beside him. He didn't replay the shots, didn't relive the duel. Instead, he remembered York's last words at the train station, before the war swallowed them both. "Someday, you'll meet someone who shoots like you do, maybe better. If that day comes, don't try to beat him, try to understand him. War ends faster that way." Elias finally closed his eyes, not in peace, but in readiness. Because now he knew. The sniper he killed wasn't the end. He was the beginning. Morning didn't arrive gently. It snapped awake. A single distant rifle shot echoed across the jungle, sharp, controlled, unmistakable. Not random fire, not panic trigger pulling. A sniper shot. Every Marine froze. Men looked up from ration tins, cleaning kits, letters half-written home. Harris cursed under his breath. They're back. Elias didn't sprint. He didn't shout. He simply stood, slung his rifle, and walked toward the perimeter like a man going to meet fate, not avoid it. A radio operator hurried toward him. "Turner, report from Echo Squad. Private Newman took a round through his canteen, missed by inches." The operator swallowed. "They said the bullet wasn't aimed at him." Elias stopped. "Meaning?" The operator handed him the dented canteen. It wasn't struck randomly. The bullet passed cleanly through the center circle of the stamped U.S. marking. A perfect shot. A signature. A message. Harris muttered, "He's telling you he knows where you sleep." Elias corrected, voice calm. "No, he's telling me he knows how close he can get." A different battlefield. The sniper wasn't repeating his old tactics. He wasn't hiding at long range. He was closer, much closer. Close enough to fire through shadows and hit symbols the width of a thumbnail. That meant infiltration, patience, surgical aggression. This was no longer a contest from opposite ridges. This was a close-quarter hunt. York once wrote in his notebook, "The closer a sniper gets, the quieter death becomes." Elias could feel it. The duel had shifted. A trail too perfect. Recon teams moved cautiously, searching for tracks, broken branches, bent ferns, impressions in mud. Nothing. No trail. No sign. As if the shooter walked without weight, or as if he expected to be tracked and erased everything. Harris whispered, "This feels wrong." Elias nodded. "It is wrong." He crouched, brushing soil aside gently. Then he saw it. Not a footprint, not a drag mark. A single, intentional sign. A twig snapped against its natural grain, not broken by accident, but pressed deliberately. Direction west. Elias rose slowly. "He's guiding us." Harris blinked. "Why would he do that?" Elias answered, "So we step where he wants, not where he is." The decision to follow. Command wanted a patrol, multiple men, overwhelming force. But Elias shook his head. "You send 10 men after one trained sniper, you'll bury 7 of them." The colonel stared, jaw tight. That confident in him? Elias looked out toward the trees. "No," he said. "Confident in the math." Silence weighed the tent. Finally the colonel spoke. "Then you go alone." It wasn't an order. It was acknowledgement. Harris stepped forward. "You're not going alone. I'm going with you." Elias looked at him steadily. "You fire loud, you breathe loud, you think loud. He'll kill you first." Harris clenched his jaw. "So what? I'm supposed to sit and wait while you just—" Elias interrupted gently. "This isn't bravery work. It's precision." Harris deflated, angry, helpless. Finally he nodded once. "Then come back." Elias checked his rifle, sling, and knife. "I intend to." Into the fog. The jungle canopy grew denser as Elias moved west. Humidity thickened. Visibility dropped. Every root and vine turned into a trap waiting to betray sound. He controlled everything. Foot placement, weight shift, breathing rhythm, trigger hand relaxed, never clenched. York's training had been brutal. Hours of silent stalking through Tennessee brush, learning to move like a creature the forest tolerated. Now it felt like preparation for this exact moment. Rain began again, not heavy, just enough to blur edges of sight. Perfect sniper weather. The mark in the stone. An hour deep, Elias found a moss-covered rock with another carved Japanese symbol. The same clan emblem. But beside it was a new mark. A single vertical line. A reset. Meaning, this hunt begins now. Elias whispered, "You've been waiting." A bird shrieked overhead, sharp, sudden, unnatural. A signal. Elias dove left. Crack! A round split the tree trunk he'd been beside. He rolled behind fallen roots. Breath steady, mind calm. He wasn't prey. He wasn't cornered. He was invited, measuring the invisible enemy. Another shot, not at Elias, at a rock 3 feet away. Clink. Perfect center hit. The message was clear. I could have killed you. I chose not to. Elias adjusted his scope, not searching for a body, searching for the tail. In war, in sniping, in this kind of duel, ego becomes pattern. This sniper wanted Elias to know he was alive, wanted acknowledgement, wanted recognition. Elias whispered into the rain, "You're not the ghost here." He placed his rifle forward, not aimed at a man, aimed at a pattern, a natural blind where only a master would hide. He didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't think. He just fired. A stillness too sudden. No scream, no thrashing, no return fire. Just silence. But silence wasn't confirmation. Elias approached slowly, each step calculated. Rain dripped from vines like beads of glass. When he reached the small blind, a perfect natural sniper hide, he found not a body, not a rifle, just one object. A folded piece of paper sealed with wax. Elias opened it. Inside was a single English sentence, clear, practiced handwriting. "The next one will not miss." Elias exhaled. Not fear, not relief, understanding. The duel wasn't over. It had just escalated. Elias stood alone with the note in his gloved hand, rain washing mud from his sleeves, the jungle swallowing sound. He read the sentence again. "The next one will not miss." There was no flourish, no arrogance, no theatrics, just certainty. A quiet threat from someone who believed the duel was no longer sport, but necessity. Elias folded the paper carefully and placed it inside his breast pocket, not as intelligence, but as acknowledgement. A message answered by simply keeping it. Somewhere in the brush, a twig snapped, not loud, but intentional. The kind of sound made not by carelessness, but by someone who wants you to know they're still there. Elias didn't turn, didn't raise his rifle, didn't chase. He simply said softly, "Then you'd better aim better than that." The jungle gave no reply, but the silence felt like a smile. Return to camp. When Elias walked back into the perimeter, the Marines looked up, not cheering, not relieved, just watching. Men in war learned to read truth without asking questions. And what they saw in Elias's face wasn't triumph. It was unfinished business. Harris approached, eyes searching for wounds. "You alive?" Elias nodded. "You find him?" "Yes." "You kill him?" "No." Harris swallowed. "Is he coming?" Elias looked toward the tree line. "Yes." Command doesn't understand. The colonel summoned Elias into the operations tent. Maps covered the table, arrows, circles, dotted lines. "Turner," he said, "I need a full written account of your engagement. If we know his position, we can drop artillery and—" Elias cut him off quietly. "You won't find him." The colonel stiffened. "That's not a helpful answer." "It's the only correct one," Elias said. The colonel exhaled sharply, a man tired of enemies he couldn't shoot with big guns. "You believe this sniper is targeting you specifically?" Elias didn't hesitate. "Yes." "And you're telling me artillery, patrols, and traps will fail?" "Yes." The colonel leaned forward. "Then what does stop him?" Elias answered, "A man like him." Silence. Finally, the colonel spoke again, voice lower. "Then finish it." Elias nodded. He already intended to. The weight of waiting. Days passed. Fog thickened. Sniper fire returned, not constant, but surgical. One round through a helmet left drying on a crate. One round clipping a shovel handle during trench digging. One round through a ration tin sitting untouched. Never killing, always close, always precise. This wasn't hunting Marines. This was hunting Elias's mind. One evening, as camp settled into uneasy quiet, Harris sat beside him. "You know," he said quietly, "most men would transfer out rather than let some ghost snipe their nerves for days." Elias didn't look up from cleaning his rifle. "He's not trying to break the Marines," he said. Harris frowned. "Then what's he doing?" Elias slid the bolt home with a soft metallic lock. "He's proving he deserves the kill." A story for the fire. That night, by the faint orange glow of a shielded lantern, Elias removed something from his pack. A folded newspaper clipping. Smudged, worn, saved for years. Harris noticed. "What's that?" Elias handed it to him. It was an article about Alvin York, the legendary World War I marksman who single-handedly captured more than 100 Germans. The article mentioned another line few remembered. York later trained a handful of young Tennessee shooters. Only one showed natural instinct. Beneath that sentence, circled in fading pencil, was a name. Elias Turner, 1937. Harris read it twice. You knew him? No, Elias answered. He knew me. Harris nodded slowly. So this duel? Elias finally looked up. It started before I ever saw combat. Signals in the night. Near midnight, another rifle shot echoed. Not at camp, not close, a signal shot. 3 seconds later, another, then a third. A pattern, a code, a location. Elias stood. Harris grabbed his arm. You're not going out there in the dark. Elias answered with the same calm that had defined every step of this duel. He's choosing the ground. If I wait until morning, it becomes his advantage. Harris shook his head. No commander would approve this. Elias checked his gear. That's why I didn't ask. Into the black. The jungle at night was a different world. Smell replaced sight. Vibration replaced distance. Sound replaced direction. Elias didn't move like a soldier. He moved like the forest accepted him. Every footstep placed with intention. Every instinct sharpened by training older than this war. Older than this island. Older than fear. He reached a clearing lit only by moonlight filtered through jagged canopy. A shape stood across the open space, a silhouette holding a rifle. Not aimed, not hiding, waiting. Elias raised his rifle halfway. The silhouette mirrored him. 2 snipers, 2 philosophies, 2 lessons passed down through blood and training and war. Elias whispered, "Let's finish it." The jungle held its breath. Both rifles rose. Both triggers tightened. 2 shadows became still as stone. And then the world snapped into motion.